Though a kid-friendly franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog is a series containing many dark and scary moments hidden throughout its 25 years of being around. In this list, we're going to be counting down 10 of the scariest. Just some rules before we begin the list. This list does not include creepypastas such as the EXE series, as it has to be canonically existing within the Sonic franchise. This list is not limited to video games only. TV shows and comics are also allowed. And of course, this list is based on my opinion and my opinion alone. Sonic Adventure 2 is not a particularly scary game, with the most terrifying thing to come out of it being the awful voice acting and lip syncing.
I'm just glad you're okay.
However, there is one particular boss that is pretty spooky. After clearing through the Death Chamber level, the player, as Knuckles, comes face to face with King Boom Boo, who literally appears out of nowhere. But he doesn't look too scary, he looks kinda silly actually. Maybe he... The boss fight that ensues is nothing special, taking place in an endless and shadowy temple. All the player has to do is evade Boom's attacks until you run into one of his ghosts, which are even more terrifying than Boom. Ugh. We'll get onto those suckers later in this list, however. Once this happens, Knuckles is able to attack Boom until he is defeated. The initial shock of this fight is really all that made it as creepy as it was, hence why it's lower on the list. Sonic Spinball is a pretty weird game. I mean, it's Sonic the Hedgehog pinball, with Sonic as the ball, terrible controls, and everything trying to kill you. Despite the game's attempts to do so, it really doesn't make much sense. The lack of actual logic is further when the game throws its first boss at you, Scorpius. What the hell is this thing? It's legitimately just a scorpion robot with Robotnik's face on it. Why was that necessary? Just look at it. Ugh. It just grossly moves across the screen trying to attack you with its tail. All you have to do is hit it a few times and bam, the horrible abomination is dead and you've done the world a great favour. But it just makes you wonder what the heck Sega's design team was thinking when they came up with this horrible abomination of a boss. Sonic CD is considered one of the best and most influential Sonic games of the many games that our favourite Blue Blur has starred in. Though the game has a pretty dark tone overall. Though featuring colourful levels and stages, the game also gives you the ability to travel forward and backwards in time, and some of the future stages are pretty messed up, featuring a world where Robotnik has taken over and the stages are filled with machinery, usually dark colours and tones, and a complete lack of animals. The stages in CD aren't the scariest thing to come out of it, however. Rather, for this pick, we look at the music. Perhaps the most messed up song to come out of Sonic CD was the boss theme. What did Japan get as a boss theme? This! What did everyone else get as a boss theme? This! With the haunting laughter in the background and eerie noises, this theme is quick to send chills down anyone's spine, even if the bosses themselves don't match the creepiness factor of the song. Combine that with the fact that Sonic throws himself off the stage if you remain idle for too long, and it makes you realise that CD isn't as lighthearted as many thought. As many are aware, Sonic R is a pretty weird, and terrible, game, and despite its broken controls and gameplay, isn't necessarily scary. It's a racing game after all. However, R does provide the player with 9 playable characters, 4 of which are unlockable. These unlockable characters are Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckles, Egg Robo, and of course, Tails Doll. Tails Doll himself is not necessarily scary, it's just a little creepy. Though the official art for him is pretty eerie, featuring him in a dark room with the spotlight on him, it was nothing too bad. It was the fandom's reaction to Tails Doll that made him as infamous as he was. And as soon as the internet became mainstream, Tails Doll quickly became the source of creepypasta and fan art, a majority of which depicted him as bloody and terrifying. Even Archie Comics hopped into the bandwagon, albeit a little late, and featured Tails Doll in a few issues as a sleeper agent from Eggman. And as soon as his cover was blown, he converted into a disgusting monster, though it didn't take long for the freedom fighters to put him down. This pick is more for Tails Doll's legacy, which made him notorious for one of the most terrifying Sonic characters.
Play.
The Archie Sonic comics are without a doubt utterly fantastic, and present an amazing take on the Sonic storyline. Being the longest running video game comic book of all time, as to be expected, throughout the over 280 issues there have been several dark and creepy moments, almost too many to narrow down to just one choice. These moments include the epic battle between Sonic and Eggman, where Eggman had supposedly destroyed Knothole, and Sonic became desperate and very, very angry. While not necessarily scary, it was certainly unnerving. Or the 30 years later arc of Sonic Universe, where we see Shadow attempting to take over the world by unleashing to chaos upon our heroes. Or more recently, Sonic's transformations into the Werehog, which were depicted as grotesque and disgusting. Or perhaps even the heart-wrenching Mecha Sally arc. Eventually, however, I managed to narrow it down to one that actually really freaked me out as a kid. This was the Silver Saga of Sonic Universe, in which we get a glimpse into what Silver's future really looks like. It's that of a dystopian one, as to be expected, but far worse than what the comic had initially alluded to it being. Destroyed cities, completely abandoned. Silver is essentially alone to face the ultimate evil, the ultra-powerful Hedgehog, who was actually a very threatening villain. Across the 4 issues, Silver is pitted against clones of his old friends, but the question is, how did Hedgehog clone them? Silver made it sound as if his friends were all dead. Well, apparently not, because at the end of issue 25, we see Hedgehog surrounded by the limp and lifeless bodies of many Sonic characters, all of which have gaping mouths and red, soulless eyes. Hedgehog is a force to be reckoned with, not only taking down Eggman, but Sonic as well. This was despair. There is no hope. This is a true villain, and this one splash page had me terrified until the end of the comic. Well done, Archie. Though a bit of an unpopular opinion, I quite liked Sonic Unleashed, and thought it was a pretty good game, barring the Werehog segments. My favourite part about the game was the heavy emphasis on story, and the ambitious plot of the game, involving the world being split in two and the awakening of the Dark Gaia, an ultra-powerful being of destruction. Though Unleashed does have the whole werewolf thing going on at night, and all sorts of creepy enemies appear in hordes to try and take you down, nothing too scary happens in the game. This is until the final boss, which is, of course, Dark Gaia. Though the creature is already reasonably threatening and gross normally, he has a transformation that he has yet to reveal to the player. When he decides to undergo this transformation, what ensues is horrific. Arms burst from his sides, spilling green blood. Eyes emerge from his shoulders, and his face morphs itself into one large eye. The transformed being now stares down at you, its true form revealed. And now you have to fight him. Good luck. Dark Gaia was already threatening enough, but the transformation sequence is horrifying, disturbing, and very, very unnerving, adding extra tension to the ensuing fight. The Fleetway Sonic comics were pretty messed up. There's one issue where Eggman creates an evil clone of Sonic named Extra Life, who proceeds to beat the crap out of Sonic. He was only defeated because of some quick thinking from Tails. But that's not the worst of it. No, the most terrifying thing to come from Sonic the comic was their version of Super Sonic, a psychotic maniac. Instead of it being a transformation for Sonic to undergo, Super Sonic serves as a demon that lives within Sonic that manifests himself in his body whenever he is exposed to chaos energy. And when Sonic is, the demon is unleashed. Super Sonic possesses none of Sonic's qualities. He relishes killing, and seems to be more than eager to tear through Sonic's friends and enemies, relishing the destruction. In issue 184, he's even seen toying with Sonic's friends as he wants their pain to last longer before he kills them. In issue 81, he goes on a rampage and almost kills the Freedom Fighters, though they manage to escape underground. In another issue, he beat Knuckles to a pulp and tore up Metal Sonic with ease. He also tore this guy's arm off and tried using Amy as a human shield. Or Mobian shield, I guess. In short, Super Sonic is absolutely terrifying. At the end of the comic, Super Sonic suffered from amnesia and turned good for a while. The catch was that he was running out of chaos energy and as a result was dying. This meant in order to save him, he had to be reverted to his demonic state. But before he could make mincemeat out of Sonic's friends again, he was separated from Sonic and destroyed, finally ending the maniac once and for all. Super Sonic was a terrifying addition to the already weird Sonic the comic, and remained in the nightmares of many for years to come. Sonic X was one of those shows that I grew up with, and though it wasn't on TV, I tended to head down to my local Blockbuster and grab as many volumes of Sonic X as I could. Though watching the show is now painful, back then I used to really enjoy Sonic X, and the show gave me many a good laugh. All but one episode, which gave me nightmares for months. and for once I can actually see why. This was episode 19, Sonic's Scream Test. In this episode, Sonic and friends join Chris and his mother, who is starring in a new movie and is being filmed. This takes them to a haunted castle. What could possibly go wrong? Well, this episode adapts the basic plot of number 10 on this list, the Big Boom Boo fight. This means it features the hourglass, which releases the ghosts and causes them to run rampant on the main cast. Though the ghosts themselves are pretty freaky, it got much, much worse, as they soon began possessing characters and dragging them into the spiritual world in order to feed their king, King Boom Boo. That's pretty messed up for a kid's cartoon. But the worst thing is that the ghosts mostly succeed, and the scariest thing from this episode is what the ghosts look like when they possess people. Here we have a possessed Amy. Oh my god, it's coming back to me. The ghost named Booms, apparently, spend the entire episode haunting both the characters and the audience and even manipulating them in order to trick others into going to the spirit world. However, Chris and Cream managed to free the others, and from there the ghosts were easily defeated. Who thought this would be okay for kids? 4Kids censored all of this stuff in Sonic X, but they thought this was okay. It got even worse in the Archie comics, which just straight up had the ghosts take over everyone and chanting, "Join us." I recall not even being able to sit through the entire episode. So terrified of the ghosts and what they did to the characters, I was almost put off the show for good. Nobody likes water levels in games. They're always frustrating and difficult, and are oftentimes stressful. One game that combines all three of these qualities in its water level is the original Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. However, Sega didn't stop there. No. They decided to add even more pressure onto the player by adding a countdown to the inevitable fate the player will face if they do not get a bubble fast enough. The infamous drowning theme, a sound ingrained into the brains of any Sonic fan. No, bubble, no, bubble. The sound itself is terrifying at this point due to the implications behind it. You're about to die. This usually causes a mad rush to locate an air bubble as quickly as possible, and the panic-stricken player is forced to search as quickly as they can. And if they're not fast enough, it's game over. So as I already covered earlier in this list, Sonic CD has some pretty eerie things contained within the game, but that's not even the worst of it. No, for if you want true nightmares, we must visit the debug mode of the game. Here you can find various different messages and Easter eggs left by the developers. Oh, look at that. Tay was saying he would see us in the next game. How adorable. Oh, this one's even more adorable. He's so cute. Here's another one of Sonic in a band. That's kind of cool. This one's some kind of weird muscular Sonic thing. That's kind of weird. Oh, look. There's one more. What about this one? It's... As I'm sure you've heard multiple times before watching this video, as the internet's already covered it to death, Sonic CD contains a secret message screen in the debug mode containing rows of a deformed Sonic with a Japanese message reading, "Fun is infinite with Sega Enterprises," and is signed by Majin, aka the Devil. And guess what music is playing? Yep, the terrifying boss music is back. Maybe this is what it was made for. Disregarding the fact that the screen is the stuff of nightmares, many have proposed reasons as to why it exists. Many believe it is a jab at Nintendo, featuring Sonic with a face almost resembling that of Mario. Another reason backed up by evidence is that it was an anti-piracy measure, and made to taunt those who tried gaining the game illegally. No matter its purpose, this screen is absolutely terrifying, and is easily the scariest thing to come out of the Sonic franchise.